if that don't make you want to eat a bowl of corned beef and cabbage and throw back a few beers, I don't know what will. This is Hexes and Soldiers, episode number 35. My name is Jason, and that is Flogging Molly with their song Drunken Lullabies from the album Drunken Lullabies. Um, how you doing? Welcome back. For those of you that are new to the show and took the time to navigate all the back alleys of YouTube to end up here, congratulations. Glad to have you. For those of you that are returning, glad to have you as well. Shout outs. I'd like to say hey to everyone who wished me a happy birthday. Appreciate it immensely. And as it is my birthday today, 41 years of age, don't feel much different than last year or the year before or the year before that, to be honest with you. But I guess that's good. So, as you're all wondering and guessing, what did I get for my birthday? Well, it wasn't too extravagant of a birthday. Went out to get Indian food last night, and which was fabulous. Looks like I'll be going on a gondola ride with my sweetheart, which was a present she got for us. Here at City Park in New Orleans, they in fact give gondola rides, so that's what I'm referring to. And then ordered a couple games. This is more for collecting purposes than playing. Got a couple of the ASL starter kits. There's a couple map boards I needed to add to my collection, so now I'll be able to do that. Of course, continuously trying to flesh out my ASL catalog. So that's pretty much it as far as my birthday and what I got and what I did. Not too much excitement. I got a weak heart, so I don't know that I can handle too much excitement. It's a joke, by the way. I'm glad to see, or should I say, I was initially glad to see the whole ice bucket challenge thing that has taken off, sweeping the world by storm. Yeah, and initially was pleased that everybody had suddenly become so interested in ASL until I realized it was for ALS. But that's a good cause as well. And if anybody challenges you to an ice bucket challenge, I encourage you to accept that challenge and keep within the tradition of the awareness that goes along with ALS. And then, as far as stuff that I've been up to other than the job and battling with my girlfriend about pretty much anything and everything that we can battle about, it's really getting old and wearing me out, but hopefully we get over this hump soon. Rules, rules, rules. As I stated, I think in the last episode, was working on the Napoleonic stuff. I've kind of set that aside. It's nearly finished, and I will finish it. But in the meantime, I, for some reason or another, felt inspired and came up with a World War II platoon level infantry game, which I will go into in depth here towards the latter part of the show. But that's pretty much it as far as that stuff goes. Kept me busy. So not a whole lot going on, and I kind of prefer it that way. That's better than being inundated with 10,000 things. As far as the news goes, kind of quiet out there as well. Decision Games, that crazy Atlantic Wall game, which was on pre-order, I guess is no longer on pre-order and is available for direct ordering and shipping. If you got a spare 250 bucks laying around for a game, well, you're in luck because that's how much it costs. And that's what it's going to take to get a copy of this thing. And I tell you, unless you're a die-hard collector, I don't know. I can't see paying that for this, but that's just me. That's pretty darn expensive for a game, and I've said this as well before. That's kind of sad that something like this should cost that much. A game shouldn't cost that much. They can talk it up however much they want, but you can't tell me this thing's worth $250. But anyway, if you're interested, Decision Games Atlantic Wall is available. And then you have new from Pacific Rim Publishing, The Summer of 1863, which is Tom Eske's point-to-point look at the Gettysburg Campaign. Yet another Gettysburg game featuring map graphics by Todd Davis. This thing sets the political, economic, and military aspects of the Turning Point campaign in the Eastern Theater of the American Civil War. Southern forces reach for economic targets, stripping victuals from farmlands and commissariat materials from towns as they maneuver to cut communications between major cities In order to isolate Washington, D.C., the Northern forces deployed a block route to key cities, both sides watching for the opportunity to bring their opponent into a major battle that will tip the scales of victory in their favor. It's cost you about $30, and says Consim World members can get $5 off by using coupon code CSW-1863 at checkout, and this offer expires September 22nd of 2014. Then special offer from Diffraction Entertainment in association with Mataka.org. That's Mataka.org. Anyone ordering a game from Diffraction Entertainment between Saturday, August 16th and Sunday, August 31st will receive a 30% discount on any currently released products. To receive this discount, email John-Bannerman, that's two N's, at live.co.uk and provide the discount code MATAKAORG1 backslash 30 to get that. And then that is honestly pretty much it for the news. And that brings us to the top 10 list. And this week we have the top 10 worst games, or I guess I should say the bottom 10 worst games. And Board Game Geek ranks games, war games, but they only go up to the number 2,195. So what I've done is start at 2,195 and worked my way backwards. So I guess we'll be starting with the worst war game that is rated on Board Game Geek, and that would be Nero. Came out in 2002, and I have never played this, no idea if it's any good or not, to be honest, but apparently it's not. In Nero, Legacy of a Despot, the players are contenders for imperial power using legions and political influence. The aim is either seize and hold the Imperium by being declared emperor, or to gather enough land and power so that at game's end they are in position to do so. Nero is a game full of opportunities, and the players have to react and act quickly, often making their own opportunities by playing the event cards sagaciously and timely. Event cards include assassins, briberies, bad auguries, German tribe attacks, galley fleets, crisis in Roma, the Praetorian Guard, and many more. It also says Nero Legacy of a Despot includes one large game board of Europe and the Mediterranean area, 162 full-color playing pieces, 12 full-color cardboard stand-up leader pieces, 55 quality playing cards, 2 player aid cards, and a rules booklet. And the game does not contain any dice. Movement, combat, and events are all covered by the deck of playing cards. Brings us to number 2, or the second worst war game, Kriegspiel 1970. Avalon Hill, of course. This is a full-scale war game between two nations. In the advanced book, it says, of all the games in the Avalon Hill line, this game is best suited for introducing novices to the growing science of game strategy. It's a basic traditional hex encounter turn-based war game. Units having combat and movement factors. Combat results are done by computing odds, for instance 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 3 to 1, etc., and using a combat results table by cross-referencing one of 4 defending strategies and 3 attacking strategies, and that means no dice is necessary. Victory is by reducing the opponent to 20 combat factors or occupying all of the opposing cities, and advanced game adds reinforcements, weather, air power supply, etc. That brings us to number 3, The Civil War. This came out in 1991, Fresno Gaming Association, and this won't be the first time this association is mentioned. 15 square feet of map area covering the conflict from Galveston, Texas to St. Joseph, Missouri, and from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Jacksonville, Florida. Counters represent all the land and naval units from the armies to brigades and from fleets to river flotillas. Unique leadership rules. No leader is ever the same. Their abilities change with every battle. And you have excellent tactical combat system, tactical combat chit selection, and combat matrix combined with combat results track to resolve combat. Time scale is a 1 calendar week per game turn. Map scale is 15 miles per hex. And unit scale is brigade to army. That brings us to number 4, The Eagle and the Sun. 1991 release, Fresno Gaming Association once again. And apparently, you're supposed to be able to recreate the various campaigns ongoing in the timeline covered. Some claim that this is a remake of SPI's War in the Pacific, the first edition, although it was more ambitious than that. It also says that this game was so ill received by the gaming community that they almost willed it to fail in order to retain their fond memories of the previously released game on the same subject. And then it goes on to say, not sure who the above user was, though from the content I would suspect it was someone involved in publishing this game. The counters and maps are simply gorgeous and frankly set a new graphic standard for war games at the time, and have undoubtedly contributed to the generally better graphics we see in modern games published after this one. However, stating that the gaming community almost willed it to fail in order to retain their fond memories of the previously released game on the same subject strikes the reader as entirely mendacious and disingenuous in that it completely fails to mention that the rules to this game are so poorly written as to make it unplayable out of the box. In effect, Fresno Game and Associates published a very pretty do-it-yourself kit that provided the player with world-class graphic components and no usable rules whatsoever. To use the game, you would either need a copy of the previously released game on the same subject's rules, or some other set of rules that you might like to try in order to make it work. For the truly hardcore wargamers among us, that might even be a project of interest. However, most customers preferred to spend their money on a game that would actually work without having to design it themselves. And rumor has it there was a second edition rule set complete with some replacement counter sheets that was subsequently published and which supposedly made this thing playable, but at this time I can find no hard information on that. And that brings us to Strike Force 1, 1975 release, and these names might surprise you, then again they may not. Jim Dunnigan, Redmond Simonson, and you have to figure, at least when it comes to Jim Dunnigan, the guy had some winners out there, but as he has produced so many, you have to allow for some duds, and he has some duds, this being one of them. Strike Force 1 is an easy-to-use two-player game designed to introduce the concept of conflict simulations. This was designed as an introductory game to be given away at conventions and as a promotional item. The game consisted of a folder with map, combat results table, small counter sheet with 10 units, and rules. Also provided was a complete turn-by-turn sample game. The game is a hypothetical meeting of U.S. and Soviet forces in West Germany. To win, the Soviet player had to occupy 2 of the 3 town hexes in 4 turns, otherwise the U.S. player wins. And the second edition of this game, published in 2007 by Victory Point Games, is the first game in their Battle Sun trademark series. The listed expansion is for this edition of the game. So this game came free with Nicholas Palmer's book, The Comprehensive Guide to Board Wargaming, which was published in '77. That brings us to Borodino Doom Victory, 1990 Strategy and Tactics, also 3W. This game is a simulation of the Battle for Moscow, 1812. First published in Strategy and Tactics magazine, number 136. Included in the game are rules, a 22 by 34 map sheet, and 200 counters. 2 scenarios are provided, a historical scenario where units are placed as they were actually deployed, and a hypothetical scenario where players are free to deploy where they wish. Victory is solely based on Russian strength losses, and the French player must eliminate at least 90 strength points to win, approximately 40% of the Russian army. That's a hefty task. Number 7, Dixie. This sounded interesting. 1976, Redmond Simonson, SPI. Dixie appeared in Strategy and Tactics magazine number 54. Also was released as a folio edition. And this is from the introduction. It says, Dixie is a brigade division corps level simulation of an alternate history conflict. I guess fans of Harry Turtledove, this should pique their interest. Dixie posits that the Confederate States of America had successfully waged the first American Civil War and survived as an independent political economic entity. The game further posits that these 2 independent countries wage a modern war during the late 30s. So, I don't know how that worked out. Apparently not very well. That brings us to History of the Second World War. Task Force Games 1985 was originally planned to be a 9-part series of games, which was a very ambitious goal, covering all of World War II based on the B.H. Little Hart book of the same name. This is a grand strategic hex encounter turn based World War II war game. Hexes are 175 kilometers. A turn is 1 month. Combat is by dice and a combat results table, and based on both attack defense ratings and type of attack slash defense. So, what actually got released was the part one Hitler Turns Against Russia, and as I said, it was the initial release for the series. Part 2, The Overrunning of the West, was also published before the series was discontinued, and the remaining 7 parts were never published. Well, that's heartbreaking for a designer. Number 9, Combined Arms. 1973, Mr. Jim Dunnigan again, SPI, came out in Strategy and Tactics magazine number 46. Wow, Strategy and Tactics, there's some duds out there for them as well. Combined Arms is a tactical game that simulates modern warfare from the German invasion of Poland in 39 to the Yom Kippur War of 73. The correct and proper interrelationship of the three basic combat arms, armor, infantry, and of course artillery, are explored. Finally, the 10th worst game, according to Board Game Geek, and their ratings is World War III, another Jim Dunnigan game, 75 release SPI. This is an Army fleet simulation of global conflict in the height of the Cold War, and rules and map are similar to his Global War game. So there you have it, the 10 worst games. Avoid these or not, I guess, if you're interested and feel lucky. Otherwise, there you have it. So that brings us to my latest project, which I debated whether or not to dedicate even part of a show to this. I don't want to be self-aggrandizing or self-referential too much, but I thought why not, and take it as you will. If it interests you, all the better. If not, I apologize ahead of time, and I will give the prerequisite disclaimer. I know this game is not going to set the world on fire. Trust me, and I don't have even medium expectations for this thing. It's merely a project that I would like to share and get some feedback on. That's it. I'm not professing to do anything else, so bear that in mind. So I guess first off a number of questions that can be asked regarding this. One being, I'm in the midst of developing rules for a Napoleonics game. Started out as a board game, ended up being miniatures based, and took a break. And this is basically the love child of that break. How does that happen? I don't know. I guess I have a ton of ideas in my head, and this was the right time for this idea to be birthed. Another question, I suppose, is an obvious one. Is there room for another World War II tactical infantry game? And I guess there is, and I guess there always will be, as long as you are able to tweak this, tweak that, and put your own kind of stylized touch on the thing. But nevertheless, I started fiddling with some rules, and everything went fairly well. The end product, the end result, was something that, to my surprise, worked and was enjoyable. So I thought I would polish it off and share it with other people. As far as this thing goes, it is 101st Airborne, dropping behind enemy lines in June. Once they get organized, once they get their bearings, dealing with some German elements. This is strictly an infantry-based game for purposes of simplicity. You're not going to find any tanks or planes or anything like that in here. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I was inspired by a number of things, and the old saying, standing on the shoulders of giants, is well put here. I am standing on a few giants' shoulders, and there's a spoken or unspoken tenet within the wargame industry that goes, when it comes to this stuff, that is to say, wargame design, plagiarize, plagiarize, plagiarize. And When I first came across that, I thought, well, that's ridiculous. But the more I thought about it, to an extent, you can't help even involuntarily plagiarizing other things because there's so much stuff out there. It is somewhat challenging to come up with a fully original design, but to come up with something that's slightly different from the other stuff out there, there's still room for that to happen. So what I've done is take a number of things, the things I like from certain games, and combine them into one congealed essence, added my own particular style to it, and that's what you got. So again, it's just squads and platoon leaders. And I'll add that the platoon leaders in this thing are not the end all be all supermen of which the game hinges on that you might see in other games. They have their place here, but again, they are not going to make or break necessarily a game. And I think that's a bit more realistic. Not that I'm going for ultra realism, but I think that does grounding leaders does make things a little more realistic, in my opinion. As far as the counters go, let's see, with the squads, you have a couple of numbers on the counter. The first number is going to be the range of which you can fire, but the final number is actually going to have a threefold meaning. And you're going to have the firepower, which is the number of dice you're going to roll in an attack. It's also going to represent your strength. So as hits are taken, you keep track of this with step loss markers. And then finally, this is final number is going to represent a squad's breaking point. So a squad with more suppression markers than its current strength is going to rout until it's rallied. And of course, you've got a letter on each squad counter that helps represent the platoon affiliation. Platoon leaders, fairly simple. You've got an unprinted number that represents their firepower and strength, which is a 1. But then the number printed on the counter is going to be the leader's modifier, which may be applied to a same hex squad when it comes to rallying. And then, of course, the letter of the platoon which it oversees. Support weapons, again, I kept this simple. You're really only dealing with machine guns here. You've got a range and a firepower number, which is going to be the number of dice you roll. And I took something from the original squad leader game here and put the whole when you fire a machine gun, it's going to affect the target hex and then pretty much anything beyond that up to its range. Always liked that, and it's a fairly simple mechanic to represent the effectiveness of a machine gun, so I threw that in there. And then you've got a number of markers, and these are all represented in the counters that are going to be made available with the game. But what I've done is pretty much everybody has a copy of Axis and Allies laying around. And if you do, grab the gray and red plastic counters from that thing because they'll work great for this. That's what I've been using. But otherwise, they're going to represent suppression, reaction, and you're also going to use these to throw them in the cup for your random draw. And that's where I guess I could jump right into that now. That's where the solitaire mechanic of this thing germinates. Because if you look at the map's going to be divided into 3 sectors: Sector A, Sector B, and Sector C. So as the allies move across the map, when you enter each sector, you're going to draw for each zone within that sector. So when you enter Sector A, you're going to draw 4 or 5 times for each zone in that sector. And what happens is, if you draw a gray token, there are no Germans in that zone, so you draw for the next zone. If you draw a red token, then that means there are Germans present in that zone. You place them as such, and there's rules determining how that happens. But basically, within this cup, you're going to have 3 red tokens, and then the rest are going to be gray tokens for the remaining number of zones in all the sectors. So there's a likelihood that at the beginning of the game, within the first sector, Sector A, you've got 3 platoons of Germans that will be present in that sector. Also, it could be balanced, and you could have a German platoon activate in Sector A, then one Sector B, and then one Sector C. or you could have nobody activate until the last sector. So the potential for variation within this thing is pretty high, and I liked it. So that worked out nice. As far as the turn sequence goes, number of things briefly. The first thing you're going to do is roll for your command activation, and this is based on the number of, say, if the allies do this, you're going to roll for each squad or platoon leader on the map, and for each activation you're going to get to activate one squad or platoon leader for that initiative phase. If you don't get any activations, you're still allowed one minimum activation. And the reason this is important or different from the next phase is because anything you do during this phase, the opposite player cannot react to it. So in a sense, it's kind of free actions. Number of things you can do there during this time. You can fire, you can move. It's only one action. So you fire and you can move, you can rally. And then the juicy stuff happens after that in the action phase. And I should back up and say each side is going to roll for this initiative phase, and whoever gets the least amount of actions is going to be the initiating player. They will go first. The other side becomes the reacting player. Once you get all that stuff ironed out, you go to the command phase. This is where the major stuff happens. Number of choices you have, but here's where your movement takes place. You're firing. You can move and fire, or you can move, or you can fire, etc. It pretty much works like that. And then your end phase, which allows you to remove one suppression marker and all reaction markers. And then you have stuff that deals with reactions, so the opposite side is not just going to sit idly by during the action phase. They're going to react to things, and there's rules regarding how that takes place. Then you have stuff that deals with cover, and if you're in the open and you're fired at, the person firing at you is going to get a bonus for that. There is basic cover, which ties in with terrain soak. So if you're in a certain kind of terrain, say for instance woods, you're going to automatically soak up one hit. Or if you're in advanced cover, which deals with stone walls and buildings, you're going to soak up 2 hits. That's pretty much it. You can never soak more than 2 hits. Again, that works out fairly nicely, no problems there. Stuff regarding suppression and routing. Squad with one or more suppression markers is suppressed. Now, the way that works is if you're fired at, you register hits, but you don't technically register any step losses, say because of a terrain soak. Regardless, you're still going to get a suppression marker, and this is going to do a number of things. The suppression marker is going to prevent you from doing 2 actions next turn if you don't get it removed. You're only going to be allowed to do 1 action. Additionally, it's going to improve your cover. A squad or platoon leader that is suppressed is allegedly hugging the ground, as it were. So this will improve their cover. So if a platoon leader is in the open and he becomes suppressed, he will then automatically upgrade to basic cover, and this will soak 1 hit. The scenario that's included, and I say scenario because I'm still debating on whether to add more, as the mechanic of the game allows for so many variations. I've entitled it Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and it's a pretty straightforward premise. You enter allies onto the map and attempt to exit them off the other side while the Germans attempt to prevent you from doing that. And then, again, I've already talked about how that's going to work. As you enter each sector, being the allies, you're going to roll for each zone within that sector to see if Germans are present. And again, I've played this a number of times and it's worked out brilliantly. I'm really happy with it. Very enjoyable. You never really know what to expect, and it's just great in my opinion. But obviously, I'm biased. So that's pretty much it. I've got 2.5 pages, I think. Yeah, about 2.5 pages regarding the example of play to help you get the rundown and make sure you've got the feel of it and you're doing things correctly. Hopefully, it doesn't complicate things. It's there to simplify things. Designer notes. Couldn't do a game and not put designer notes in, as I'm such a fan of that. Got over a page of designer notes. Nothing too in depth, just some light-hearted stuff that was going through my mind as to when I was making this, why I made it, etc. And then the final thing I'll add is the variant which allows for the Germans to become zombies. And again, I'm not the die-hard zombie guy, trust me, but I thought it worked well as far as just something different, kind of I guess you call a beer and pretzels thing. Obviously, the Germans are the zombies, and one of the things that is, I guess, different from a normal play is zombies ignore suppression and will always use double movement in an effort to reach the enemy, and will take the shortest route to get there, among other things. So I thought that would be a fun little variant to explore. So that is a basic rundown of the thing. Obviously, you haven't seen the counters, you haven't seen the map board, but I will tell you up front, the counters resemble Grossdeutschland fighting formations. I've variated it, but they're very closely related to that. As far as the map board goes, well, don't fix it if it ain't broken, and you can't do it much better than ASL style map boards, so that's what you can expect there. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but printed directly on the map will be Sector A, and then the letter B for Sector B, and then a dividing line for each sector, so you know when you cross that line to start rolling for German activation in that new sector. So that's what's going on there. And then that's it, basically. This is easily converted to miniatures play. If you want to go that route, you can just throw the map in the trash or use it to roll cigarettes. That's fine and dandy. Don't mind at all. But that's it. That's the game in a nutshell. And as I've stated on the blog site, hope to have this available by the latest end of next month. Probably sooner. Most likely not later than that. I've got a printer here on campus that is more than capable of fulfilling my needs, and it's not going to be a box game. It will be a Ziploc version. We'll have this available through a number of methods. One being you can shoot me an email at hexesandsoldiers@gmx.com, all lowercase. I'll have some information available on hexesandsoldiers.blogspot.com. Also, I might even throw a couple up on eBay just for giggles to see what happens there, and I will let you guys know when all of this is in motion. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, I don't have a team of editors or playtesters behind me. It's just little old me. So that's it. And as far as the next show goes, I'm aiming towards that Kursk megasode. It's going to be a hell of a topic to tackle. I don't know that I will tackle the whole thing. I may focus on a certain area. Not sure yet what angle I will approach this, but that's what I'm leaning towards. Just your meat and potatoes episode with some history and then some do a top 10 list of Kursk games. What's out there worth playing? What's out there worth throwing in a bonfire and keeping warm next to? So, as far as next episode, that's what I'm looking at. But again, all things are subject to change. Other than that, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening and keep gaming.